Hey guys, Paul here at Impulsive Culinarian. Welcome to part 2 of the St. Patrick's Day recipe series. I can't wait to share this one with you guys. Some gluten-free fish and chips with a beautiful dairy-free tartar sauce. Yeah! I think it's safe to say that the bulk of any St. Patty's Day festivities in your life will probably be spent in a pub, all right? When you get a little older like me, you start to celebrate it at home with the kids and all that, which is great. But you somehow replicate pub food at your house, right? And when you got to do it gluten-free and dairy-free, you don't want to sacrifice that amazing, delicious taste, okay? And that's what you're going to get out of this recipe, guys. I guarantee it's so delicious, and it's just like being back at the Irish pub. Here's the stuff that you're going to need. It wouldn't be fish and chips without some delicious chips. Get yourself 3 pounds of potatoes, russet or golden, whatever you like, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, a tablespoon of sugar, and half a tablespoon each of onion powder and garlic powder. Then, of course, you want to have some nice crispy fish to go along with that, and get yourself 3 to 4 cups of oil, depending on the pot that you're using. I like to use around 2 to 3 cups of olive oil and cut that with some coconut oil just to change the flavor up a little bit. 1 pound of fresh cod or haddock. I'll be using haddock in this video. 1/4 cup of corn flour, 1/4 cup of tapioca flour, 1/4 cup of sweet rice flour, 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of fine sea salt, and then 3/4 cups of carbonated water. Lastly, guys, it doesn't make any sense to have this if you don't have a killer tartar sauce. Here's what you need. 1/2 of a cup of dairy-free mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of sweet gherkins finely chopped, 2 tablespoons or more of capers, the juice of half of a fresh lemon, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and some freshly ground black pepper to taste. Let's get some fish and chips going, guys. Come on. Ever since I started the St. Patrick's Day series, guys, the weather has been warming up. It's been above zero for around, I'd say, 4 or 5 days straight. Ice is melting. St. Patrick's Day parade is just around the corner. So it's a sign. It's time. Spring is on its way. So let's celebrate that. Get your oven preheated to 400 degrees. All right, so next you want to get 3 pounds, roughly, around just a little over 3 pounds of russet or Yukon Gold potatoes, whatever you've got handy. Peel them up and chop them up into big rustic fries. Yeah, something like this. Big rustic cut. Nice huge chunks. That's the way I like my fish and chips. All right, so once you've got your potato fries all chopped up in the nice rustic chunks, add 3 tablespoons of just regular quality olive oil. All right, so then you want to add the seasonings, garlic and onion powder, salt, and sugar. As an optional seasoning, you can add, just for color and spice, a little bit of Cajun Spice. Depending if there's kids, you want to omit this. Otherwise, you can add a teaspoon up to a whole tablespoon of Cajun Spice. I'm going to put a little tiny bit in. Toss everything together so it's nice and combined. There you go, guys, some nicely seasoned potato wedges for our fish and chip recipe. Okay, so next you want to get your potato wedges onto a parchment-lined baking dish. Get them in the center rack for 25 minutes at 400 degrees. Okay, so now that your potatoes are in the oven, the next step is to cook the fish. Depending on the pot that you're going to use, you may not need 4 cups of oil, guys. If you want to use a smaller pot and do one piece at a time, that's fine. I like to use a large saucepan with high sides so they don't get any kind of foam or anything going on top. If you've never fried before, the safest thing to do is to get a big pan, put a little tiny bit of oil, and just flip your fish accordingly until you get more comfortable with it. This is my weapon of choice. And I know that if I use 2 to 3 cups of olive oil with around half a cup to a cup of coconut oil just to change the flavor, that's exactly the right amount. I'm going to do 2 pieces at a time in there, and everything's going to be safe. So act accordingly. Get some oil over medium-high heat. All right, so while your oil is heating up, guys, it's time to prepare and season your haddock or your cod fillets. Depending on if you have kids or not and you want to have smaller portions, this would be a lovely piece of fish, just one right on top of a little bed of fries. But because I've got kids involved, I may chop this into 2 or 3 pieces. Act accordingly. Spread these out on a plate, season them lightly with some salt and pepper before you put the batter together. Now there we have some beautiful fresh haddock, nicely seasoned with kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper. Ready for the batter. All right, so now that your fish is seasoned up, get yourself a medium to large size mixing bowl and get the batter ingredients. Okay, so I've got all my dry batter ingredients in there, the flours and starches and the salt and the baking powder. So I'm gonna whisk that together just to make it like it's one dry ingredient before adding my carbonated water. Next, add 3/4 cup of carbonated water. Okay, so once you've just whisked it all together, it seems a little bit liquidy, but that baking powder and all of those starches and stuff are going to congeal a little bit. So you let that sit while your oil gets up to temp. So speaking of temp, your oil, very important, okay, that you have it at a relatively high heat. By that I mean 350 to no more than 400. So let's say 375 degrees. Get yourself a good instant read thermometer. That's an important tool in your kitchen, guys. You definitely need one. And so check it occasionally and make sure that when you get to that 375 threshold, that's when you want to start dumping fish into the hot oil. It's only at 300. I'm going to give it another couple of minutes. But in the meantime, look what's happened to my batter. So when I first mixed it together, it was very liquidy, but now look at that, it's congealed. Oh, beautiful, hey? It's like it's rising. So you want to whisk that down just a little bit. That's just the baking powder and the starches doing their bit. And you're going to end up with this beautiful thickened mixture, which is just the right consistency to coat your fish. Okay, the oil's around 370 and rising. Let's get some fish in the pan. Go, go, go! Okay, so here's a good example of why you need a pan with high sides. You know, I can show you this way. I've only put, I'd say, around 1.5 inches of oil in the bottom of that pan. As soon as I get these battered pieces of haddock in, the foam starts to rise and it creates this sort of mist of oil bubbles in the top. With a shallower pan, that stuff would go flowing right over and you might have a dangerous situation. So be safe, guys. Use a pan with high sides. So keep a rough eye on the clock. Around 3 to 4 minutes should do the trick so long as your fish is completely submerged. If you've used a tiny amount of oil, you may need to flip the fish over just so that it browns on both sides. But you want this to be a nice, crispy, golden brown. Don't take it out until it's nice and crispy. All right. So in between your batches of fish, guys, at some point, your 25 minutes on the first half of your potatoes is going to ding. So take the oil off the heat for just a minute and while you flip your potatoes. Ho, ho, ho. Yes, indeed. French fries have been flipped. Tell me those don't look frickin' delicious. Okay, so we're going to put them back in the oven, center rack, for another 15 minutes. Go! All right, let's get the oil back in the heat. All right, we're back in business. Only took a minute to get back up to temperature. So, back to work. Oh, look at these gorgeous lovelies. Nice and golden. Gluten-free, guys. Gluten-free all the way. But you'd never know. All right, so there's some beautiful fish for your fish and chips, guys. Nice and crispy, golden brown. Keep that aside. And in the next few minutes, while your potatoes are just finishing up, let's mix together the ingredients for tartar sauce. Wouldn't you know it? Didn't get the tartar sauce started yet, because the potatoes are ready. Okay, get them out. Oh, yeah. Can't have fish and chips without the chips. Chips are out, fish is ready, tartar sauce time. Okay, start off with a generous 1/2 cup of dairy-free mayo. Well, if you don't have to worry about that, good on you. Get Hellmann's or Miracle Whip, whatever you like. We use this soy-free mayo, all right? It tastes fantastic. Tastes just like mayonnaise, or even better, make your own. Oh, that's a video. Okay, so you cannot have tartar sauce, guys, without these sweet gherkin pickles chopped up into a nice fine dice. All right, I used like 4 of them, all right? They're the size of half my thumb. More than enough. If you like more, go for it. And of course, I call for 2 tablespoons of capers. I might use the jar just because we love capers. 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, 5 tablespoons. I love my juicer. I highly recommend you get one. 1/2 a fresh lemon, juice it up. Then get yourself around a half a teaspoon of kosher salt and as much freshly ground black pepper as you like. Mix. Okay, you don't have to add the whole jar of capers. I like it this way. It's nice and chunky, but you be the judge. Some people add Dijon mustard to this as well, depending on where you're from. I like it just the way it is. There's a beautiful dish of gluten-free fish and chips with homemade caper-laden tartar sauce. Guys, dig into this. So guys, I hope you liked that video. Part 2 of the St. Patrick's Day series. It's only going to get better. There's 2 more episodes coming up every Saturday up until the big weekend. So if you liked this video, be sure to smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys, and hit the bell because there's lots of videos coming up every week, 3 times a week. It's spooky. So stay tuned for next Saturday, guys, part 3 of the St. Patrick's Day recipe series. Every Wednesday, Wines Day, I open up a brand new vintage, so join me live right here in the Impulsive Culinarian kitchen where I open up a bottle and share it with you guys. And every Thursday, don't forget my quick and easy healthy recipe menu series. But how many videos a week can you do? I think I'm going to go and have some fish and chips. See you next video, guys.